All right, welcome to episode 2 of 3 in the Euphoria offseason, aka season 2.5. I'm Drakos, you might know me. Sitting to my left is the manifestation of my inner rage and frustration. You might know her as Froskurinn.
I thought we were doing 4 episodes.
Wait, I said 3 last episode too. She's new to this co-hosting thing, Yamato. You got to give her a break. Joining us also today is the best dressed man in esports. It is none other than the LEC's Frank Sinatra, Vitality's head coach, Jakob, YamatoCannon, Mebdi. He makes everything look good, Frosco. Even that hoodie that he clearly threw on at the last minute as he showed up.
And be sure to check under the table because he's got some sweet Yeezys on right now.
The Yeezys really pull it together, though. That's how you know. It's like even when you're just wearing a hoodie and you're chill, like some part of you has to be like 10 out of 10, out of control.
With the Rolex, you know?
You don't accessorize Rolex with hoodie?
Rolex with hoodie is where it's at. That's tracksuit mafia, baby.
Frank Sinatra, that's, I like him.
Yeah, he's good. I feel like that's like a classic style icon. Yeah.
I don't know too much about him. Maybe I infringed myself in a bad way. But
I was reading an article today about complexion when it comes to men's fashion specifically. And I actually figured out that that's why you work so well. You have like a medium complexion. You're not high contrast. Whereas like people can see camera on Drakos. Drakos has a low contrast complexion because his hair is light and his skin is light. You're medium contrast because your hair is dark but your skin is kind of in that olive tone, which means you can wear basically the gamut of anything.
That's what I thought about.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's the reason why I said Frank Sinatra for sure. That the skin tone thing you said. Got it. Bet updates before we go any further. Quick Shot's in trouble. For those of you who do not know, he bet that Origin would win the split. Froskurinn bet on G2. Yes. Yep. So Froskurinn, you're pretty much safe from what we've seen so far. Quick Shot is in trouble and may have to get a frog tattooed on him.
I just wanted to let everyone know the bet originally was supposed to be you picked Fnatic or G2 to win the split, or you picked anyone else. So there would 100% be a tattoo. Quick Shot backed out of this and he wanted us to guess the specific team to win, which I understand it's a tattoo, it's a big thing, but I was ready to go all or nothing. I was like, Fnatic or G2, you either pick the Kings to win or literally any other 8 teams. Would you have taken that bet?
Well, yeah, Vitality's going to win.
There you go. Yeah, we're going to ask a man who has a coach that's not one of those two teams.
You want in on this tattoo bet?
No, don't put in on the tattoo bet. Stop making tattoo bets. You've been here for like a week.
I'm going to mark the entire...
Everyone's going to have it.
Trevor blinded by love. Oh, the official.
Oh, God, the property of Froskurinn tattoos are going to start rolling in. All right, topic today, roster rumors. We talked about a little bit about it last week. We're going to follow it up. We also have a bunch of hot takes and wild theories from you, the fans. We'll round it off with some important questions as we head into the LEC for the year and, of course, a bet in traditional EUphoria style. So first up, guys, we touched on it at the end. Yamato, I don't know if you got the end of the last episode. I need to talk about Perkz 80 carry Caps mid. Officially, still a rumor, but literally every sign that can possibly point to yes, aside from official confirmation, has come in. We've had the deleted Fnatic owner tweet. We've had Perkz saying he won't be a starting mid laner. Like kind of sassily making fun of the people. I don't know.
We've also had the Jakob Wolf news articles breaking.
Early.
So you got what?
That
You got
coming out quick.
the Jakob Wolf sourced article, you have the Perkz sarcastic tweet, and then you have the blunder on social media. So what's it going to be?
Yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say.
Yeah. Also, can we just appreciate that Jakob Wolf is like
Yeah, shout out to Jakob Wolf.
potentially a deity. My new theory is that he just actually decides all the rosters because he's literally never wrong.
There's that mentality of like the top 1% of like people who control the world, and it's actually Jakob Wolf.
Yeah, Jakob Wolf is the puppet master of esports. Okay, so let's assume it's happening at this point. Caps, mid lane, Perkz 80 carry. I'm a little confused. Where did this come from? Like how is it it's like, yes, this is the solution for G2 heading into 2019. This is how we become an all-star lineup is we take our all-star mid laner and put him in the bot lane and take someone else as our all-star mid laner.
I mean, I don't know about you, Yamato, but my first jumping off point is that we've already seen Perkz play ADCs. Like the funnel meta G2 for probably about 3 weeks in the world were probably the best team in the world because they were best at playing that funnel strategy. And Perkz played multiple ADCs during that time period. So in terms of like on-stage competitive experience, yeah, it's different because you're not playing the 2v2 matchups, and so the lane phase will be different. But ultimately, we know that Perkz can mechanically perform on those champions. If you check him out in solo queue, he's destroying everyone. So in terms of doubts or starting points, I'm like, yeah, makes sense. Guy seems to be like a pretty good ADC.
I agree. I think Perkz as AD, I think after this year, makes a lot more sense just because of funnel, as you mentioned, and at the same time, everyone was playing casters in bottom. And for example, we were experimenting with Jizuke playing bot lane sometimes, and he was destroying any AD that you can mention, playing some AP carries down in bottom. Played some Lucian mid or whatever with Attila. And I think this is a huge strength. I think skills from mid lane transfer very well onto other roles because it's such a mechanically intense role. I think AD is also very mechanically intense, and I would not be worried at all for Perks if he plays in bottom. And I think when it comes to G2 and their history of acquisition of players, usually it's they get to the finals and then they pick apart the the enemy that they face. It happened with Sven and Mythi. Wunder as well faced him in the final, and that's the G2 way. They just picked apart Fnatic in a way, took caps away, but I think, speaking of Fnatic, I think they'll be fine. But
Yep.
Perks as AD, I think will be also pretty good.
I like the G2 as like the ELO vampire of the LCS. They're just like, all right, that's a part of us now. Like you're here with us.
Be a shame if something were to happen to your bot lane.
Yeah, if you can't beat them, hire them. Like respect. A little different than the liquid theory. If you can't beat them, buy them. But still respectable. But what does this actually change for Perks in terms of player? Mechanical, obviously on point for Perks. The mages are good too, but now he's playing in a duo lane. There's obviously some nuance there. Is this like we expect G2 to hit the ground running? Is G2 going to be like #1 from the start? Or is this kind of like we're going to have to see sort of roster change?
I mean, first and foremost, I think we should say what the roster has been rumored or theorized to be, which is Wunder, Jankos, Caps, Perks, and Mickey X. This is a combination of either rumors from Jakob Wolf,
Yes.
things that we've seen on Reddit, or contracts that are held in the contract database.
Which is, of course, public info.
Yep, and like the star-studded talent, pound for pound in roster, is absolutely insane in that lineup. If this is extended lane phase, if the meta stays how it is, I see this G2 esports, unless they just completely run into each other and combust because there's, I don't know, conflicting personalities, but the only two pieces you're introducing are Caps and Mickey, they sprint off the starting line.
I agree. I think mechanically, individually, amazing roster. I think Mickey, Wunder, great players. I worked with them. I think their interest for the game is amazing. It's always great to work with players that really love the game, and I think that's the idea for this entire roster. I think Jankos as well. I think it depends highly on what kind of form he's going to come in, because he played the funnel thing, and I think he dipped pretty hard and redeemed himself at the World Championship, I would say. I think if Jankos comes in with top form and all the other two do too, I think this can be an amazing roster. But of course, you have to ask yourself, will it work together? Will they have internal issues? Who will be the coach? Who's going to run? Who's going to run the ship? Pretty much. I think those are all questions that can be asked. But on paper, amazing roster for sure.
Paper perfect. Do you put faith in it? Do you expect it to hit the ground running, or is this one of those things that? Because obviously we can see the top end of the potential. But once again, is this something that like starts off strong, or is this something that's going to take time? That's going to have to build up, or we're going to have to see how they play together?
I think it will. I would be worried if it doesn't, because if it doesn't, I think it won't recover. I think if it doesn't, there will be changes. Because it's hard to. I would have to think about how I would phrase myself.
My concern, for instance, is like if you start on a losing team in this new situation, right? There's like one situation where like everyone's like, oh, you know, new team, new lineup, that's fine. But I feel like when you've got a guy who was an all-star mid laner who swaps to AD carry, and this is theoretical, right? I don't know how Perks
Backseat mid laning.
Yeah, backseat mid laning, right? Because like let's say
that's not how that matchup goes, Caps.
Let's say Perks starts bombing as an AD carry, right? When once again, this is guys, none of this is confirmed. We're still waiting on a lot of it. We know Perks is on the lineup. He could be playing mid. Yarn Woody could still be here. We really don't 100% know. But assuming that it is the lineup as it is rumored, then like, yeah, what if we have that backseat mid laner? What if Jankos is like, oh my god, why is Perks playing AD carry? He's like running it down every game, right? It feels like when you're making this big of a swap in this dramatic of a situation, if it then immediately fails right out the gate, like that does not feel good. Now, maybe these guys are like way above that, right? And they know what it is, but you never know. I feel like you never know until you actually see it happen.
I also feel like the safety net in terms of if there is an immediate failure, like the synergy's just not taking off or people take a bit of growing pains to their role. Ultimately, if you look around the rest of the league, outside of Vitality and Fnatic, in terms of like the either solidified rosters or like the rumored rosters, everyone is making huge, massive, sweeping changes. A lot of pieces got shuffled around. A lot of people are finding new homes. And so you kind of expect that spring is going to be a slow start for ultimately everyone, except for really Vitality. You guys, what? It was one player that was replaced so far?
Yeah, I just wanted to elaborate on my point about G because I got to think about it a bit more. I think the expectations are so high for every single player on this team. That's the impression I'm getting. I don't know. I'm not inside their head, right? I think when you create a roster like this, the expectations are going to be so freaking high that if something goes wrong, I think, which I won't think would happen, but if it does, I think this is the type of team where changes will happen fast. And I think this is just like a crazy prediction. But I think the expectations are very, very high, reasonably so, because it's a very, very stacked roster. And to your other point, I quite don't remember what you said. Sorry, Froskurinn.
So it's all good. We'll jump to that in a second because we wanted to talk a little bit about Vitality as a roster and kind of the strength of changing out members. But before we get into that, I do want to transition over because Fnatic are the other people involved in this roster rumor that I think is really importantly. Like Caps, their all-star mid laner, part of the two big carries that we identified for this team, at least throughout the summer regular season, with Caps and Reckless. Caps is now gone. We now have rumors that Nemesis is now coming in. Soaz is also gone, moved over to Misfits. That's official. I'm a little concerned for Fnatic. Like, what are initial thoughts? One, I know nothing about this Nemesis guy. I'm going to be honest.
Really?
I know very little about Nemesis
really?
as a player. Yeah, believe it or not, this guy coming out of nowhere. For me, at least.
Do you know anything about Nemesis?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you?
I know him.
Let's say I'm a Fnatic fan and I'm sitting here and I'm scared. Could you like instill some faith? Like, how would you like if you had to sell Nemesis to a team? How would you describe this player?
I don't work for Fnatic. Obviously it's a downgrade. But I think if you want to do some selling, then go ahead, Pascal.
So Nemesis coming from Mad Lions, played over in the Spanish league. Ultimately, kind of the key selling point, or what the theory, when I was investigating him and kind of talking to a couple of people who are more involved and entrenched in the Spanish league, is that with his former jungler, Nemesis was kind of the mid-jungle terror duo of the
Of the LVP, yep.
Yeah, of that league. He plays very well around jungle information. And so right now the leading theory is that if you pair him up with a guy like Broxa, who has so much experience, so much leadership at this point, that it should actually just make him really shine. He's not going to have the same playmaking or ceiling like someone like Caps is. He's not going to be a guy that's going to come in and just like throw down the gauntlet. He makes much more calculated plays. But again, if you're looking at an old school Fnatic roster of, okay, it's no longer about Reckless and Caps. Now it's about Reckless and Whipwo. And these two kind of being the big carries, and then a very stable pivot point who's going to move with Broxa. Maybe you're unleashing more of a carry-oriented Broxa as opposed to a Sejuani-only oriented Broxa, like something closer to what we saw at the World Championship versus what we saw for majority of Broxa's career when he was put on lane protection duty. I think that's kind of the evolution that Fnatic should theoretically make with Nemesis. But for all I know, maybe he throws that aside. Maybe Fnatic see something in him like baby Caps and he just goes off. But from what I've seen, I watched about 4 of his games today. I'm like, okay, I can see it. He's a steady player. He's mechanically solid. He does play around his jungler a lot. He likes to move with his jungle. And if he has a very vocal, very experienced jungler, I see him being not the star or like the next torch. But if you have someone like Bwipo who has so much raw talent, I think you just shift the power points on Fnatic to top and bot.
And that's like a lot of information to digest, right? I think you said a lot there about like you gave us the full rundown of Fnatic as a team, but one of the things I want to talk about is with a new guy on the lineup, are Bwipo and Reckless the kind of guys that you can rely on to carry? Because like Bwipo had a lot of inconsistencies. He had his good performances. He has bad. Reckless, while he did step up towards the end of the split, and particularly in the summer finals, like there was a lot of games where this guy was just kind of chilling when he first made his return to the LCS, where he was just on Ezreal duty and the rest of the team was like ignoring him, playing around other lanes. Is this a strong form for Fnatic, putting this pressure on Bwipo, putting this pressure on Reckless as you move forward?
I think when I look at the changes that Fnatic has to go through, I think they still have a great roster. I think if I look at which player is the biggest loss, I feel like Soaz is the bigger loss in comparison to Caps. I think Caps is fantastic. I think mid lane as a role is something that we have. Like we have a lot of mid laners over in Europe, so this is something that you can always fill. But I think Soaz as a player, I think what he brings to the table in terms of improvement for everyone else, I think that's something that I value really, really highly. Soaz has so much experience, his understanding of the game. I think whenever there was a team that had Soaz, it was always a very creative team. It was Origin, it was Fnatic, it was back in the day AAA with Linak, and they were doing crazy stuff already back then. And I think the impact a player has on everyone else, I think Soaz has a massive impact. And I think in terms of replacing Caps, I think Nemesis can grow to become such a player. But I just feel like when you look at the history of mid laners that Fnatic has had, it was always, Forbiven, Xpeke, they were surrounded by great players. I think once again Nemesis is surrounded by great players. I think they'll be fine. But if I think in terms of losses, I think Soaz is a big loss.
It's really interesting. I know, Daniel, were you present for Vedius and I's throwdown over Bwipo versus Soaz?
Okay, but which one? You guys, this is like your #1 favorite topic to fight about ever since Worlds. Even before Worlds, you guys fought about this.
Yeah, so this is my favorite thing. I love to wind up Andy. He just like loses his mind. But my favorite thing to poke at him is the Bwipo versus Soaz. I'm actually personally on the camp where I think it sounds weird. Because I say one person is better than the other does not automatically make the other person shit. Just want to clarify that one. I actually feel that Bwipo is better for Fnatic than Soaz.
Okay.
And I felt that it was the nature of the meta. It felt like Fnatic put that trust and made that recognition in Bwipo. You know, the fact that he started in the finals, that he was really utilized because he was grabbing hold of these champion pools. Soaz still looked incredible at the World Championship. His Sion game alone where he saved that Baron was masterful. But I can understand, at least from kind of what I'm seeing competitively, why they would or at least why they would value Bwipo to start him when they had both of them, and kind of now why maybe they'll put all of the eggs in the Bwipo basket, because I feel like we don't really know where his skill ceiling is. And so my question to you is, I have faith in Bwipo from what I've seen at the World Championship, a rookie who was able to achieve so much, that if you give him the same amount of experience that Soaz has, like, he's going to be better. That's just how I feel about Bwipo. Now, I could be very wrong. Maybe Soaz has like a complete breath of fresh air on Misfits. Maybe he makes that team into geniuses. I mean, you look at him next to Maxlore and Gorilla. That's like 3,000 IQ team. They should be just macro gods between the experience and the leadership and like the King's Own mind. But in terms of raw ability, like, I would always back Bwipo, and I just think he needs time to be forged into a legend like Soaz.
You know, it's everything that I've said about Fnatic is all speculation. I just want to make sure that the viewers back home know that. I think, you know, when I look at Fnatic, the big question mark is, for me, always Soaz, with his experience, how much of an impact did he have on the team as a whole? I think always when you work with players that know a lot, they like to share their opinions, they like to improve everyone in the team. And I think the big question mark is, how good is Bwipo going to be without Soaz as a support? How good is the entire team going to be without Soaz as a support? And I think, for me, that's the biggest loss. And once again, it's all speculation, because I don't know how Fnatic works on the inside. And I think Soaz as a player, very smart about the game, and I'm certain that he contributes a lot in terms of improvement as a team. And that's what's kind of sad, because you compare Bwipo with Soaz and how they perform on stage, but there's so much more to that. And I think when you look at, for example, the IG series, I think Bwipo got annihilated. And I think, looking at Soaz's performance, I think his game was quite good. He had an opportunity to solo kill the Shy even, if he E'd into ult right away. But, I think Soaz individually is still insanely good. So I think if I look at the value they have overall for a team, I would value Soaz higher. But if you put them in a 1v1 tournament, Soaz is good at that as well, then you can maybe value them differently. But I would go for the Soaz camp.
And now we have to see where that leadership you're talking about, that kind of experience, comes from on the team. Brox is, of course, a veteran that we can look at. Reckless is a veteran, although not often touted as kind of like the teaching voice on a team, I think. And Hylissang's a madman, so I mean, I don't know, right? I've never worked with Hylissang, but I know the man likes to pull off crazy stuff, so we'll see what happens.
Before we move on from this topic, I actually think Reckless and Hilly might be exposed a little bit, and it's harsh to say this, but again, my lens and my experience is coming from looking at bot lanes in the LPL, the Jackie Loves, the I Boys, the Uzis. undoubtedly, Reckless is very consistent in team fights. Hilly is a playmaker. I like his playmaking much more around mid than I do around the bot lane. I think, like at the World Group stage, Hilly took some really strange trades that just like ended the 2v2 before it even began. If I was
to flip coins, he takes risks.
it's funny. But for the longest time, Reckless and Hilly have never really been challenged. You know, since Sven and Mithy left and they kind of had their heydays, now there's kind of like this shift, especially around the bot lane, and you have much more competitive, I think, across the board bot lanes. The experience that Attila and Jack Troll are now going to have, the fact that you have a possibility of Perks and Mickey, and let's say that just like pops off, the possibility of Upset and Ignar, Hansama and Gorilla. I liked the name Gohan for that duo. Hopefully that one sticks. But, you know, suddenly Reckless and Hilly aren't just going to make the rest of the bot lanes like the punching bag because their skill level is so high. And I actually think this is where, if you were going to have concerns for Fnatic, it's not just in the mid lane, it's not just in kind of the volatility of like, how is Bwipo going to stabilize without that teaching voice that Yamato was talking about with Soaz, but will Reckless and Hilly just get kind of like a free ride to play out bot lane and then just be team fighting gods that they normally are? And I don't think so this time around.
Yeah, I think bot lane is quite stacked, but I think if I would summarize the question mark about Fnatic is, you know, the question was always, oh, Caps is so amazing in mid lane, but Hylissang and Broxah are playing around them so well. Are they so smart about the game? Or is Caps directing this entire ordeal that's happening around mid lane? And I think those questions are going to be answered very fast. I don't know what kind of player Nemesis is in a team setting, but I think if Fnatic can find leadership within their team, then I think they'll be fine. If not, then I think they will look worse than the previous year.
Yeah, and once again, Nemesis, a lot of this stuff is rumors, intel confirmed, and I sat down with one of the person from our league team today, and he reminded me to inform everyone that a lot of these things are still pending behavior checks. So remember that if you're toxic, might not end up in the LEC. Although very rare, to be fair. He did also mention very rare. Most players get in, but on the off chance, you guys are like, Nemesis, this is the one. But he, you know, went off on a terrible tangent in solo queue. Maybe not. We'll find out. We'll see who actually gets locked in these respective teams. The last piece of the G2 Fnatic puzzle, the missing members, Hjarnan and Wadid. Now, a lot of mixed opinions about this bot lane over the course of the year. They're the best bot lane in the West until the next Rift Rivals. It's an official title. We're going to honor it.
They also took down Uzi and Ming, so...
They took down... They did take down Uzi and Ming. That's
I think we'll use that definition lightly. I think it was a takedown.
That soundbite will be cut out and spread in China.
Froskurinn has staked all our analytical credibility on that single moment. Uzi and Ming absolutely blasted.
Does it matter what happened in the game when you win?
Doesn't matter. Got there in the end.
Nexus exploded. Next.
All right. Wait. Okay, so we have rumors for Wadid going to Rogue. Nothing confirmed yet. The only confirmed player for Rogue, which happened earlier today, we're shooting this on Wednesday, is Kikis. Still waiting on Wadid confirmation. Hjarnan gone. I felt like this bot lane was pretty good, right? It definitely wasn't the best by any means, but it was definitely serviceable. They didn't get a whole lot of attention a lot of times, but they felt solid.
What do you mean is serviceable? No, I'm going to push back now.
So I wasn't a big believer in Hjarnan on hyper carries, but Hjarnan on utility I really liked, and I thought when G2 utilized them well, which was Wadid on either a playmaker or Tahm Kench.
Okay, I understand, but I'm not debating playstyle. I'm debating like where in the spectrum. If everyone is good, if everyone is good, no one can be good. And so where Hjarnan and Wadid, maybe you're saying are serviceable bot lane for the LEC or back then the EU LCS. But on the international level, yes, G2 did take down RNG. But if you look at that tape, Hjarnan and Wadid.
I'm sorry, didn't you just tell our audience that they obliterated Uzi and Ming? Weren't those your exact words?
You know what I'm saying, or you know the question that I'm trying to ask or to pose is that where is serviceable? Are you saying that is a world-class international top-end bot lane? Because then I think it's a hard no.
I would say that they were plagued with inconsistency for certain. I think they had some fantastic games and they had some abysmal games. I'd say it all rounds out to, I would say, middle of the pack. But even then, middle of the pack, I think, like, for me, would have been good enough to get them in on one of these 10 teams. Now, I've heard nothing. Of course, we've heard nothing from SK at all, nothing from Excel. I don't have rumors about either of these teams. Maybe Hjarnan ends up there, but Hjarnan and Wadid splitting up is a little bit surprising to me. And I feel like these guys could have gotten a spot on a team. And I'm wondering why we haven't heard anything about them. And if they don't show up, is it fair?
I think Hjarnan and Wadid I think they were a victim of perception. If we don't talk about the skill level, I think the way they were spoken of by the community and by the broadcast team and about from anyone in general, I think they were spoken about way lower than they deserve to be. And I think regardless, like when you're in a team with players that are spoken bad of, it affects you subconsciously whether you like it or not. And I think I remember the finals back in spring. It was a clear overperformance, not overperformance, but Reckless completely outperformed Yanan, and that was like Reckless in spring was absolutely crazy. He was styling on everybody back then, and I think this is something that affects the workings of a team. I think G2 was very lucky in the sense that a lot of meta changes favored Yanan and Wadid, but I think also they got a pretty bad break because of how the timeline went for them, and you know, they just came from a final where the enemy bot lane destroyed them, and that's going to be in the back of your mind coming into the next split. Oh, my bot lane is not good enough to perform against the best ones. What will we do when we face them again in the finals or whatever will happen? And I think this is something that can affect the team. This, once again, is all speculation. But to speak about the skill level of Yanan and Wadid, I think they're smart about the game. They had an edge when Heimerdinger was around. It's still around for them, right? I think Wadid improved a lot. I think this year he improved immensely, and I think they're decent. I don't think this combination together would compete against the best that the league has to offer now, what is rumored to be offered. So I think, yeah, middle of the pack, I would say something like that.
I will say this idea that you're bringing up in that, not that Hjarnan and Wadid knew that they wouldn't be able to compete against the best in the world, but it felt like G2, Hjarnan, and Wadid knew exactly what to do when they were faced with that type of mountain. You know, there was never going to be a situation where you watch G2 games, especially in the most recent at Worlds, where they would try to sink into the bottom lane and try to play around bot lane. They just kind of, you know, they prioritized things like the Tahm Kench. They knew that they needed to play defensive. And I will say that in terms of players understanding exactly what the responsibility was for their composition to the champions that they were playing, that they did above and beyond what you could ask of them. They were never going to be the duo lane that, you know, the Jakulovs and the Uzis and the iBoys that were going to get the priority in the draft phase, that were going to get the priority in the jungle proximity, and that you're just going to run everything through them. It was, okay, guys, survive, play defensive, have the utility picks like the Jhin, maybe go for like a Heimer or something like that if you really want to blast someone bot lane, but otherwise sit back, do your job in team fights, and we'll see you in, you know, 20 minutes.
Yeah, for me, I think the biggest issue that I had with G2 didn't necessarily stem from Hjarnan and Wadid, but more how they were drafted for. Because you're right, there's those Jhin games, there's those Heimer games where they look fine. But there's also plenty of games where, like, Hjarnan was on Kai'Sa, and they played Kai'Sa Tahm Kench and gave up all priority, or Kai'Sa whatever and gave up all priority. And I think that was the other issue. Like, there were times where G2 set him up to be their hyper carry when, like, you look at that roster and he should never be set up as the hyper carry.
I disagree, though. Like, I understand what you're saying, because when you see a Kai'Sa, you automatically think that the team is then prioritizing, you're going to be the hyper carry, we're going to put all the resources into you. But I actually think that when G2 did it, they still understood from a perspective that it's either a denial pick or we're going to sack the bot lane, we're going to lose it anyway. Let's pick a pick that will, you know, spike when we need it to for our composition or come online for the team fights. I still think that even when you see those picks, like if you see Kai'Sa given to Jakulov, you know that everything's going to go to him. But I think when you see Kai'Sa go to Hjarnan, it's still not everything's going to go to him. It's, this is our late game insurance. You know how like the mentality changes? And again, if I can speak highly or be complimentary of Hjarnan and Wadid, and again, not saying that they're shit, please don't take this out of context. They are, I think you are correct, a serviceable bot lane in the LEC, but they understood the responsibility, and I think G2 understand when they fit into like the scheme of things. And so I wouldn't look at their Kai'Sa game and be like, they've lost it because they're going to try to carry through Hjarnan. I think, no. They understood that he was the secondary carry as a marksman.
Yeah, I mean, I highly disagree with the philosophy, but I see what you're saying.
I think something that I would like to add is a team's mindset always when you come into like a playoff setting or world champion setting, you always world championship setting, you always look at what you're good at and look what you're bad at, and you try to come up with band-aid solutions. In an ideal case, you're going to be able to play anything. I think IG, even though the bot lane didn't get much attention, if it was a bot-centric meta, I think they could execute on it, because I have a lot of respect for IG's bot lane. I think watching them throughout the season and playing against and scrimming against them, they were absolutely nuts if they needed to be. And I think they showed up big time in the finals. I think when it comes to a team like G2, I think they committed fairly hard on the fact that, after spring, I think they committed very hard on the idea that, playing through bot lane is not something that we're going to do. There's going to be a band-aid solution for the rest of the season. And whenever G2 had success, they played through mid and top. And this is the case and the process that a lot of teams go through. For example, Splice, they had a hard time getting lane dominant wins. They weren't dominating wins like lanes ever, so they just went for this late game kind of thing. This was their band-aid solution. And ideally, when you come into a season, what you want to do, for example, G2's roster or my roster, is that you want to come in and you want to know for a fact that you don't need to have any band-aid solutions at all. You have whatever the meta throws at you, you're ready for anything. And I think that's why I completely agree with G2's changes, because I think they had to do band-aid solutions with Yana and what did. And I think that's what keeps you in the middle of the pack when you're not diverse enough.
And whatever the case, here on Wadid, we'll see if Wadid ends up on Rogue. We'll see if they end up together, maybe on XL, SK. We'll see which of the rumors becomes true. But I think that's a good opportunity to now start talking about Vitality. You talk about shoring up any weaknesses. You've made one change. That's Mowgli coming in. That's confirmed right before the podcast.
Yes.
Actually, just like right on time. Thank you, Vitality, and you for confirming it so we can just talk about it openly.
Yeah.
Why Mowgli? Like, why? Talk to me about what this guy brings to the table. Why him over another player? What is he going to improve so that there's no band-aid solutions for Vitality?
How's his English?
Ooh, good first question.
Well, it's improving. We are going through a lot of measures to make sure that he's ready. I like the idea of having... I don't like bringing this idea of bringing a Korean duo over. I think that's what kind of creates kind of
A silo, yeah.
It creates like groups within a team, and you don't want that. I think, back when I was in Meet Your Makers, I worked with Horo from SKT, and he was alone, and he was very eager to learn English, and I get the same feeling from Mowgli. We have conversations on a regular basis, talk about the game, and he's learning pretty fast. We have a lot of systems in place that I don't want to reveal.
It's memes. You're teaching him memes.
Teaching him memes. Yeah.
It's the fastest way to understand
Twitch chat,
English.
here you go. Just read this, Tyler 1.
He can show you Korean memes. You can show him Western memes. It'll be great.
Exactly, yes. So his English is pretty good. Yeah.
It's a good first step. So back to the original thing, which is, I think, what were the weaknesses that you perceived previously in Vitality, whether they, like, as a whole, and what is Mowgli now shored up, and how has he shored that up?
I think, just to speak about Kickers, without Kickers, we wouldn't go to Worlds for sure. He came in, we started winning, and I just felt like this iteration that we, practicing at Worlds, I felt like we reached kind of a peak. I think facing some of the other junglers, scrimming against the best of the best junglers is a very delicate role. You make one mistake and it just affects the game way too much. And jungle as a role is something that is super impactful, and practicing a lot against Mowgli, seeing him play, I saw something in him that impressed me a lot. I think mechanically he's very talented, he's very vocal about what he wants to do in the game, and I think he can compete against the best of the best. And for the case of Vitality, we did well in groups, but obviously we're not satisfied. We didn't get through groups. We want to do more. We want to get to quarters, to semis, and this was the move to make for us to continue onwards. I kept the remainder of the roster because I don't believe that the rest of the players have peaked yet. And that's what's the most interesting for me as a coach. I want to see growth, and look at this roster, and I will show you already now that there will be a lot of growth, and the potential is there to do great things.
So there's this thing about potential, but kind of the point that I was bringing up before is that if you look at all of the moves, the team who has made the least amount of moves is actually Vitality, because it's just one position that changes out. And so instead of using words like growth and potential, are you willing to just say that for synergy purposes, day one spring split, because you expect there to be massive growing pains with all of these brand new rosters as they're trying to figure out like the communication systems, the patch, the new coaching, that you guys are just going to take off because you already have this built-in system? Or is the jungle that delicate of a role that you guys will be basically on ground zero with everyone else?
I think it's fair to say, sure, we're keeping a core. I think that makes my job easier more than anything, because I know what to expect coming into the next season from 4 players pretty much. I know what they need to work on. I know what their strengths are, and that gives me a lot of energy and time to put into Mowgli to fit him in there. I think that's a massive strength from my side. But in terms of synergy and how they work together, I think all it takes is one person to change how a dynamic works completely. All of a sudden, let's say you're in class, all of a sudden there's this new guy coming in, he's super hip, and all of a sudden he's the king of this jungle that we call a classroom, and it just changes the dynamic completely. I think it's the same case here for Mowgli, because our communication is going to change, the way you play is going to change. He has his ideas, his background, and it's going to affect all of us in a way. And I think in terms of coming into the next season, it makes my life a lot easier, because working with a player for a year, it's almost as if you establish kind of a working engine. You have an engine that pushes you forward. I have a relationship with all of these players, and we know how it functions. We have this repertoire, whatever it's called, And I think in terms of putting energy into one person, Mowgli is going to be the new guy coming in. I'm happy to know that I get to keep 4 of my players, because I know I can put energy into it.
I love analogies. I'm going to steal your hosting role.
Oh my God.
If you had to make Vitality a
just
car.
To be clear, we've already had a classroom and an engine. So just to be clear, you're already coming into, we're deep in analogy territory. We're like 2 away from an LS Thorin episode of the podcast for analogies.
And this
That's
is about
all I'm saying.
Yu-Gi-Oh! And the card goes, no. So because you said engine, so it reminded me of it. If you had to assign each Vitality member, including yourself, as like parts of a car, I would say that at this point you're almost the driver, because you're also one of the most consistent backbones to this roster.
Okay.
And I was reading you guys' AMA today, and they were giving you a lot of praise. I'm like, oh yeah, this Yamato guy must know what he's doing. So I mean, where would you put it? Like, who is the engine? Who is the car? Like, do you know what I'm trying to ask?
The problem is I don't know shit about cars.
You just exposed this man on a podcast.
I said engine because for me, I'm thinking trains and planes and...
For an example, RNG.
Okay.
Uzi would be the driver. Everyone else is a wheel.
This is like...
Okay.
You somehow managed to like sneak RNG commentary into this podcast like at least like 6 times in the last 2 episodes.
It's coming in. It's fine.
I hope I'm not the driver. I don't have a driver's license. That would be...
Okay, he's not driving the car.
Me neither. That's called being a good adult, folks, for you kids at home. Good role models. Aspirational.
Who is the leader in the team? Who is the... who's your... I mean, you don't have to announce who your shot caller is, but just kind of like... Because you constantly talk about... Why I really enjoy conversations with you is that you do talk about kind of that that intangible that not a lot of the audience get to see. The dynamic of personalities, of work ethic, of work systems that are so important to League of Legends. Because for majority of the audience is just going to see... Oh, I almost said something bad. That guy flashed into a wall. What an idiot. He's bad at the game. They don't hear like all of the different communication patterns that are happening and are able to pinpoint what's breaking down. So if you had to give us some insight.
If you had to explain to us why the idiot flashed into the wall, Yamato, what insight would you give? Too many examples. Yamato, who's the leader on your team?
Okay, I think it's...
I ask it better.
So many words.
If someone would have the team captain role,
yes, there you go.
It would be Cabochard. I believe in a system where everyone has responsibilities and anyone who wants to speak will speak. I think leadership is not something that is given. It's something that is natural and is taken. Whenever there's something that needs to be done in terms of communication, I throw it in the air and I push everyone. Eventually someone will grab it. Because I think leadership comes naturally. I think sometimes you can see this presence within someone and you can push that person in that direction of leadership. For example, Cabochard, I worked with him now for 1.5 years. And what I noticed right away in the first split was, this guy doesn't need help in top lane. He knows more about top lane than I do. I'm not going to tell him how to lane. I'm just going to push him in terms of leadership. I'm going to push him to improve others. And that is something that he has worked on immensely and something that shows up big time. Because when you've played the game for such a long time, well, this doesn't apply to anyone, but Cabo has played the game for such a long time, and he can easily see what needs to happen next. And that's something that is very undervalued for a lot of people, because when you're in the midst of it, there tends to be a lot of chaos. And if you have a voice of reason in chaos, that can solve everything almost. And Cabo Shard, most of the time, is that. He's very calm about the game. You can see how he's sitting on stage. He's basically on vacation, getting a tan. Like, he's relaxing to the max. And that is a massive strength. And I think in terms of leadership, Cabo Shard has a lot of it. But the way I view leadership as a whole, once again, is I throw it out there and I push people to grab it.
Nice. That's going to make a fantastic clip, so thank you. We'll get the nice.
You're welcome.
Yeah, oh. Yes,
I'm
good. I'm glad you mentioned that guy flashing into a wall. That was really, really on point.
You understood exactly what the question was supposed to be, Drakos.
Yeah, you added like 8 sentences that probably weren't important to the core question, though.
I liked it.
That's good. See, Yamato's supportive. That's...
Yamato and I rode home on the bus
make
together.
Yeah.
It was best friends now. We go way back.
Yeah, well, don't take him away.
We should make a podcast.
We should make a podcast.
How does this always happen? Anywho, there's a ton of roster rumors to go through, but we asked people for fan theories at home. Wild, crazy fan theories. And you guys delivered, many of you. Some of you just asked questions. Sadly, we won't get to you this time, though. I appreciate that you guys participated and asked some things. So I want to jump into the first one. At Megalodontus.
What an excellent name.
He said he has a few crazy fan theories, but I want to go to my favorite one, which is the final one, which is he says that XL's roster will probably be top 2 in spring. It's coming home.
Oh, no.
Clearly British.
Clearly British with the It's Coming Home. I feel like we have to just identify that bias right there. I know nothing about this XL lineup.
Neither does he.
Because there's been nothing public as far as I know. Maybe this guy could work for XL.
Oh, Megalodontus. Oh, he hangs around the XL.
XL Megalodontus. But
I mean, the big fan theories that we're seeing on Reddit pop up in the comment section. I like to go cruising. By the way, new favorite thing to do is to watch G2 and Fnatic flares just fight over caps. It's so good.
In caps or over caps?
Oh, both. But they're now talking about like which UK player will be grabbed by XL because it's a UK organization. I believe that the owner's LEC or Meet the Team video came out. Yep. Sounds like a very genuine guy. Kind of went the road of the nade shot when they did their announcement. You know, very much like
talked about it last week. Super eager dude. Super excited.
Exactly, excited to prove themselves. And if they do grab big UK brands, you know, that is someone like Kasing who seems to have disappeared. So, I mean, that's something possibly.
Yeah, but I mean, you're talking about big UK brands, and I see Maxlore has a team, and EUphoria has a team, and I'm like, how many big UK brands are left, really? I mean, let me get, this is the new theoretical from Megalodontus' question. Who would need to show up on this team for it to be a top 2 team?
There's no talent remaining, like really left for like a top 2.
What if we give 4 import slots? Is that enough?
Jesus Christ, no. I know the rumors, and you know the UK fans, I guess, they believe in the Leicester story. You know, they won the Premier League, and they shouldn't have, but they did, and it was incredible, and they did some amazing things. But that's not going to happen. Like, if it happens, I think some of these guys they just tweet out things that are really outrageous, and then they can be the person that, if it happens in a million.
I mean, I've literally asked for hot takes, so I wanted the most ridiculous fan theories in their defense.
I think my bigger problem is the idea that they're going to be top 2 and then It's Coming Home. Like, you don't get a prize for second.
That's all it takes.
Which I understand the UK World Cup team understands that.
UK World Cup, lower your expectations. It's our motto. Yeah. Not
gonna happen.
I mean, top 2 first split is still pretty hype, though. I'd say good standards. The next one, Brandon at Lombax Pie.
Your boy Brandon.
My boy Brandon. Brandon, I honestly just clipped
his name, man.
But we got you again. Last time we had him.
He randomly grabbed. I was like, oh, it's Brandon.
Brandon. I like this hot take because it's Yamato related, and it says Perk swapped to ADC because he wanted to avoid facing the Italian stallion in the mid lane. Do you think there's some truth to that? Do you think Perks is scared?
Little that you know, Mr. Jizuke is going to play bot lane against G2. It's already planned. It's in the contract. It's been written in paper.
The swip swap. You can't hit him with that, Yamato.
Because, back in the old days, what's his name? Pepinero.
Yeah.
Had a clause in his contract that when they played against Fnatic and Reckless, he had to play bot lane.
What?
And he played Lucian against Reckless, and he had this clause in his contract.
I don't actually know if I'm being trolled.
No, you're not being trolled. There's footage of him playing bot lane, his AD carrying playing Lulu mid, and it was a disaster. They lost. Obviously, they would have lost regardless, probably.
Oh my God.
But they did.
That is one of those fantastic esports stories that just leaves you scratching your head. Why would you ever let the
Giants.
Jizuke, the Hjarnan clause? Every time Heimerdinger's up, you have to pick it for me. It doesn't matter what meta situation. The Jizuke clause with Echo.
But Jizuke versus Perks, I think Jizuke, he's going to demolish anyone.
Where would you rank him?
I think he's going to be first place.
You think he's first?
Yeah.
You told us before the show that he's been in Korea. He's queuing up. I know he's into K-pop. He's probably listening to K-pop 24/7 while he duo.
He's got some KDA on.
He's going a little KDA. There you go. Nice little shout out
One
there.
song on the repeat.
Is this like Super Saiyan Jizuke we're waiting for? Because there was some inconsistency there in some of his performances. Are we expecting like top level Jizuke performance coming back?
Jizuke was Super Saiyan coming into the World Championship.
I mean, that's true, man. I saw the Echo game. I saw the other Echo game, which wasn't so great.
My favorite thing is he would feed and then he would make an amazing play in the same game within the first 30, like his death timer. And I was like, oh, this guy is on fire. Burning everything down.
Yeah. I think Jizuke will take the EULCS by storm in the mid lane. I think this is definitely his year. I think he's going to overtake Caps.
The year of the stallion?
Yes.
I like it.
The year of vitality.
The year of vitality, not just that. So Macker at Macker_NOR Macker. Not sure if that's how you pronounce that. Probably not. I apologize. Has many things to say. One of them is Mowgli will join Vitality and end up styling on #LEC. Mowgli confirmed. We'll wait for the style. We're going to find that out.
Profit.
Prey will also join #LEC in order to show Gorilla that he is still good.
I saw that Reddit post.
Yeah.
I saw the Reddit post where he was like kind of talking about taking a break / kind of talking about retiring, which could be the greatest bait and switch of all time because we just said it's going to take a lot for Excel to get to top 2. Prey feels like
they can pray all they want, I think after reading that post about the translations, about what he said, it seems like he's taking a break. I think, sometimes for a lot of players, if they can't find a team where they truly believe they can have success with, then maybe they don't see the point in it. I think Gorilla must feel bad.
Ooh, yeah.
I'm playing the mind games already, Planting seeds.
Little seed of doubt. What are you gonna do? Can you tough it out here in Europe? Next one, below average user at. Yeah, that's a tough one. Cub Q0. It's always hard. Is it lead speak? Is it a 0?
Cubs.
Wait, what? There's a Q.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. Referencing to the coach.
It's actually a dog, so.
It's a great picture of a dog. Shout out to you, fantastic picture. Hot take, all caps, : the rumored OG roster. Alphari, this is what this person claims the rumored OG roster is to be. Alphari called Nuke Duck Sheriff. Although made of fantastic party, will fail horribly due to extremely passive and responsive playstyle. No worry there on the type of fantastic players, presumably. It's going to fail horribly due to extremely passive and responsive playstyle. So those 4 players, is that a recipe for success?
I don't know.
All I want to say is that I was searching forever to find the rumored origin jungler. I couldn't find Cold anywhere. So if this guy's like a genius, I've seen it mentioned a couple of times in Reddit comments still, and I'm like, what is happening? Going through Jakob Wolf articles, like scrolling to the bottom.
It might happen. I guess the rumored support is also Mythy and rumored. Yeah, I want to double say that.
Which that would... I actually agree with the analysis there, which is you need some sort of loud, commanding voice, a shot caller in that lineup to actually make it shine.
For sure. I think it's so hard to judge because Nuktak, if he's in a position to do so in his own mind, then he can be a leader. But if he isn't, then he just doesn't talk at all. I don't know how he is now. I haven't worked with him for a year. So this is one of those teams that are hard to judge. I feel like this is basically when we came into last season, Schalke was the hyped up roster. Then they fell flat. That could happen again with a roster like this.
What's interesting though is then you have the other rumor for Origin. I don't know if I don't think Origin have confirmed anything to my understanding. Literally, the only thing that's confirmed for Origin is that DeFicio is their general manager.
I think they haven't announced players, but they have
in the contract database.
Yeah.
They have Alfari, Newtuck, and Sheriff. That is the only thing that's contract database confirmed for Origin, but they've made no official announcements. And then the Jakob Wolf speculation is that the head coach from Schalke is now going to be the head coach for Origin.
I think that's a good acquisition as well. I think Sheriff is great. I think he had a hard time at H2K, but who wouldn't? I think Sheriff is definitely an up-and-coming AD, so I think that's a good signing. I think this is a decent roster. I think obviously you have to always ask yourself what are the potential pitfalls they can fall in, and maybe it is a lack of leadership or maybe something else. But I feel like this is how I'm going to view this team is very similar to how I viewed the Schalke roster back in the beginning of spring.
So is it kind of the same way that you're like, they could crash and burn, they could do really well, just kind of up in the air?
Pretty much.
Fair to see. I think there's definitely like a high ceiling here in theory, but there's also a very, very low floor in the sense that like this could just turn into a fire, very much a dumpster fire in a moment. All it would take was, a lack of leadership, and I feel like we could just see, when was it, end of 2016 Vitality, where it was just like slow grinding losses. There was that Misfits Vitality game where it was like 28 minutes where there was first blood.
2016?
Was that 26? No, it was 27. Must have been
2017.
Yeah,
the one I was in?
It was the one you were in right at the end.
That was a split for me to assess who belongs in Vitality and who doesn't.
I'm not putting any blame on you. I'm just saying I think we could see a very similar team situation where it's just this like horrendously passive team that just very slowly loses.
Because the league is very, like, best of ones are delicate. Like 2 weeks you lose and all of a sudden you're like, what am I doing here? It's just a waste of time. You fall in that mindset and you're just gone,
It's dangerous.
It's a dangerous practice playing league.
Well, speaking of pessimism, we've got more pessimists from the prediction. Lucas Prandstetter. I'm going to butcher literally everyone's name, and you guys are just going to have to get used to it, I promise.
Famous Oi Spiced.
Famous Oi Spiced. Hot take, G2 will not make top 4. Perks and Mickey X will be a bottom-tier bot lane. I don't feel like that's possible. Like, Mickey is insane, and Perks is a very good mechanical player. Is there any way this goes up in flames?
I mean, maybe because all the other bot lanes are also pretty strong. Maybe they're bottom because everyone else is just that strong. I don't know. Maybe
you got a lot of faith in Sheriff.
I don't agree with the hot take. It's not. It doesn't. It
is a good hot take, though. I mean, I just don't. This one is like.
It does say at Froskurinn.
It does say at Froskurinn. Actually, correction.
We're all mentioned in all of these. I don't know why you're tagged in the post. It's how Twitter works. You've learned a lot about social media today, by the way. This is very surprising.
It's because social media.
You like double my followers on everything. You're like, how do I check how many followers I've gained?
Okay, to be fair, they sat down and they tried to teach me the analytics of Twitter, and then.
To be fair, we didn't try to teach her the analytics like, here's the guide. We said, here's the button analytics.
Yo, Vetty sits down next to me, he starts going through it. He's like, what happened here, Frosk? And he goes through like all of these months where nothing happened on Twitter. I was like, Vetty, I was in fucking China. Like, there's no Twitter over there. Let me teach you how Weibo works.
Yeah, I need that, actually. I need Weibo.
Oh, I can hook you up.
Get the Weibo. Figure it out. I don't know how to. You're going to make it happen.
You think I have followers on Twitter? Wait till you see my Weibo.
All right.
Oh.
Do you know how that one works?
Yeah, it's easy.
Yo.
I love RNG.
Shit. Bam. That's all it takes. All right, guys. Thank you so much for the fan theories. There were more. There were even crazier. Some of them in their roster predictions have already been confirmed, and many of you copy-pasted Jakob Wolf stuff, which is fair. He's usually right. Very good predicting, my friends, my viewers.
We should have had what his percentage of like correct announcements so
I
far.
feel like we can rely on him to track that, and we should get an end of season Jakob Wolf report on his percentage correct rate.
Every organization is playing Find the Snake.
Whack-a-mole.
Yes. And in our case, like, Mowgli got leaked, and happy to say the snake is outside of the company, so that makes me happy because everything else is kept pretty tightly. So I'm happy with that.
Yeah, it's always like the race. Because, you see teams are ready to respond to it when, like, rumor, like Pobelter has left Liquid, and then immediately within, like, 5 minutes, Liquid, like, all hands on deck. Like, this article's coming out probably 3 days ahead of time. Like, let's go, make those announcements.
It's also some of the teams cooperate with the leakers because it puts pressure on people in the right way. So this is something that happens as well. But this is the dark side of organizing teams.
Yeah, when I used to work
House of Cards or LEC roster acquisitions. Who knows?
No, I was just going to say, when I used to work as a coach, it happened all the time that teams would leak their own shit, basically, to apply pressure or to gain momentum, or because it's also just good publicity.
Yep.
Like the leak and then the official announcement, you get like 2-for-1 special, buy one get one free. You got your ESPN article, you got your shot caller article, you have your official announcement, your YouTube video. You're eating up the whole goddamn front page Reddit.
You're going off right now. You're into this roster announcement thing.
I did the same once in a very, very in a distant past. I did. I think I can say it because it was such a long time ago, and I would never do it again.
Are you sure? You can back out.
So your friend, what did your friend do?
So basically, my friend, he was stuck in a bad place.
Oh yeah.
And he wanted to tell people that he's looking to switch places, but he couldn't.
Oh.
So it got leaked.
Oh.
Smart friend.
Smart friend.
Smart friend.
Say, he's just
this
suddenly
was like early days of League of Legends.
Friend looking for a new team or friend unhappy with current situation, willing to be picked up.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Clever.
Sources say.
Sources say.
My friend was on Meet Your Makers, so it's understandable,
To be fair, Meet Your Makers had the ugliest logo that I think I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Didn't like that blue demon shit.
It was a little like, it was a little hot topic for me. You know what I mean? It was just like a little bit like, ooh.
Little Spencers?
Yeah, little Spencers for my taste. Do they have that in the EU? I know they have hot topic, but whatever. A little too like high school punk for me. Okay, so Meet Your Makers house jokes aside, a few more questions at the end here. I think everyone wants to know, from what we've seen so far, strongest in the LEC, which team is going to do the best right out the gate? Who do you think is going to hit the ground running?
I think, personally, Vitality and Misfits. I err on the side of Misfits. I know that everyone's looking at like the G2 super roster that's being rumored. Misfits is actually announced and secured and locked in, so we 100% know that it's going to be that. And I think Misfits is the 3000 IQ team. That is the experience of SOAS, the leadership of Maxlore, and then the mind of Gorilla. You just have Hansama and Febiven. It really doesn't matter what type of form you're going to get them. Maybe you get them at their highest highs, which are incredible. They just dance.
I don't know a lot about how the team's going to come in terms of like individual players, but I know that historically Misfits is just super good at prepping for whatever the meta is. And while they haven't always responded well to changes in the meta, usually like spring split coming in, they almost always hit the ground running. You remember Hansama playing Draven when no one else was. He was like, they were 100% ready for Hansama to play AD carries in a mage meta, and they really made it work for a while there. And obviously it didn't. In the end, you were like, please make this man play mages, and then he did play mages and it wasn't great, but really in those first few weeks they were a strong contender.
I think if anything in summer and also in spring, this was a rough year for Misfits. So even though I can praise their prep, I think also some of the weaknesses of Misfits showed in terms of like the mindset of the team. Like they were winning, Senkooks was playing completely different champions. They started losing, and the mindset just shifted completely into
something back
else.
On like
it was like, it doesn't work against Caps. We just have to do something else. It was full-on Band-Aid solution. So I think that was kind of a poor way of handling it, which is always easy to say in hindsight. I don't know what happened inside the Misfits.
Yeah.
Obviously, I know for a fact that everyone that works in Misfits are very talented and they know what they're doing. So I'm not saying this to nag at them at all. But any type of weaknesses they showed during last year, with their acquisitions that they have here, with the experience that they have with Gorilla and SOAS, these problems are never going to happen. These players don't allow a team to ship and go in the wrong direction. And I think that's a massive strength. You have players that know that when these players are on a team, it's a top team. They have this attitude about the game and the idea of how to be good at the game. And I think that's what happened in last year. Misfits is just not going to happen with this type of roster.
I think it's good to hear for any Misfits fans, and I like setting up the Vitality. Least roster changes, feels like very much set up to hit the ground running.
Really strong coach.
Strong coach. Some would call him the LEC's Frank Sinatra. Not sure who those people are, but they're very wise.
Thank you.
The other thing I want to ask is, if we've got these two strong frontrunners, which roster move do you think is actually going to backfire the hardest? Like, is there anything here that's set up where you could just see it, blowing back, falling apart? Is there anything that has that kind of potential? Of course, based on rumors that we've seen so far.
People will kind of gravitate again towards like Fnatic was probably what most of the community is going to talk about. But for me, it's actually either looking at Schalke or Rogue. Which it's hard to say, like, why would they backfire, because it's basically like completely different rosters that are put together. I want to hone in a little bit on Rogue, because the Jakob Wolf article, again, nothing's been officially announced.
Except for Kikis.
Kikis was announced, is Prophet, Kikis, Senkux, I can never say.
Hikyu.
Thank you. Hikyu, Wadid, and then Larson. And the idea is that Larson's going to finish school. I think he said this on social media. And then he's going to try to vie for the spot in summer as the starting mid laner. And word around the street is that Larson is the real deal. There's a lot of hype built up around him. I know Senkux. I love Senkux. Used to work with him on Dig EU. I know you got to work with him when Dig EU promoted into the LCS. I always had really high hopes for him, but it's just been a really rocky, very inconsistent time. And he either excels and he's that Senkux that I always knew he could be, or he just falls apart. Maybe it's confidence issues, it doesn't work against Caps or going for the Malzahar. But I think that having someone immediately behind him is either going to make or break Senkux. It's either going to completely destroy him, knowing that there's this hot, new guy coming in behind him, or maybe he finds that fire again and he starts popping off just like he did in the Challenger Series, all those years back, and he finally brings his potential, that Danish potential, into the LEC.
I like you bring up Danish potential.
They were the Danes when I coached them.
I think when it comes to Senkux, just like I can reference so many games where he played at a world-class level.
Yeah.
And a lot of people tend to forget about them. And the mindset I have regarding to Senkux is that the potential is there. Just watch him play at the World Championship, what he did against, for example, Samsung, when he played against Crown in tip-top shape. He played against Bjergsen at a very high level. We had a very intense group. We played against RNG as well. And he played fantastically. I think those games are good to reference. The best of 5 Splice had against G2 that went
they went to game 5 that took Mithy and Perks both making insane plays to bring it back.
Yeah, that was,
I will say this, and Perks literally gets mad every time I bring this up, but he smashed Perks in lane.
Like he did, there's, I don't remember the lane matchups or whatever, and I wouldn't make a statement like that because I don't remember.
It was a lot of Corky Galio, and there were massive CS discrepancies.
Oh, okay. Because Galio is a champion that kind of makes sacrifices to get ahead, so it's hard to judge. But I don't want to get into that. My point was Senkux, I think he has a lot of potential. I think with the right people around him, he can do well. So I believe in Senkux.
All right, we're going to have to see. I think it's always kind of the potential for Senkux, as you mentioned. He has those high-end performances. We saw that on Misfits for the first half of the split. We saw the collapse as well. And also for guys like Hikyu, who have been solid, have had a couple good games in a roster where you wouldn't have expected them to perform well. Was this the season for Hikyu to rise? I guess we'll find out. Last thing, Dark Horse. Is there any team? Is there any player that stands out to you? There's this rookie 80 carry. His name is Perks. Don't know if you've heard of him. I have pretty high expectations from me.
But the thing is the nature of the Dark Horse is that they're not an immediate favorite. And I think for a lot of people, G2 is a super roster, or rumored super roster is. My Dark Horse is actually Vitality and Origin. Pending what type of form and how Origin show up the rest of the roster, I'm like, they could possibly make a top 3 run. Like, I have no idea what type of form or how it's going to synergize.
So top 3 for OG, but I feel like if Vitality's a dark horse, then they have to be winning the split at this point, because that's the only thing that's left.
We're going to. I'm telling you right now, we're winning at least one split, and not both.
I like that. I like that confidence. That brings us to the bet, the final segment.
We should bet on Vitality winning.
We should, but not the split, because we already have a long-term bet and it involves a tattoo. It's hard to beat a tattoo. But how about week 1? Yamato, are you willing to promise us a 2-0 for Vitality in week 1?
What's my schedule?
We don't know. That's what makes it so spicy.
Yeah, that makes it, it's like when you go over to some Asian country and you see like 4 peppers, that level's spicy.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what you're getting anymore.
Wait, you can't go back to back. You're like, we're winning the split. And then he's like, week 1. I don't know about this one.
I mean, they're not directly.
Week 1,
but week 1 isn't the end all be all. I'm with you, Mono, on this one. But I want to. You talked about being confident in your roster hitting the ground running.
Okay, hit me with that. 2-0 first week.
2-0. Are you willing to bet that they won't go 2-0?
But I literally just bet that Vitality were my dark horse.
Yeah, they're your dark horse, not like the clear front runners. That's the point.
I'm riding this horse, so it's mine.
He's on the horse.
You guys are out of control with the metaphors right now. It's just so many mixed metaphors.
He doesn't drive a
This
car.
horse
But
is
he
an
rides
engine.
So, or another part of a car, but we
who's
wouldn't
the
know.
horseshoe and who's the reins?
Froskurinn, we're gonna see you and me time. Yamato has agreed to this. Someone needs to agree to the other side.
But that means that I have to take the other side, or there's no bet. But what if I actually
Yes.
agree with him?
Oh man, then we have to pick a different criteria.
No,
I can make it spicy. We can go 4-0. You want to take that bet?
You want to take 4-0, Frosco?
But I want both of you in. I want both of you to lose.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, okay, oh yeah. All right,
Okay.
here's the deal.
That's the ones, man.
You two are fashion icons. I have a lot of clothing. That's my qualification to be a part of the bet. Losers get dressed for a day by the winners.
On broadcast?
I think we can commit to that. I think we can
I'm sure we
commit
can
to
get
that.
a workaround.
We can get a workaround. Depends.
On broadcast.
On broadcast. So you got to go up on stage. Of course, it has to meet LCS requirements. So I'm not, or LEC rather. Ooh, excuse me.
Whoa.
Ooh.
Whoa. You don't even meet
sorry
any
about
the other
You
requirements.
know what league we're in?
You know I can't say it. That was the struggle last episode, okay? LEC requirements. So if that is suits for coaches or sweatpants, I don't know what the LEC requirements for coaches are going to be. Maybe it's sweatpants. So you have to meet the requirements.
hot dog
Has to be
costumes.
appropriate by league rules. / broadcast rules. So that's suits for us then.
Well, it's
has to
weird,
form.
I don't mind wearing random shit, but on game days it's such a ritual, So it's hard for me to give that up. It's hard.
All right. What if we go, you can maximum ridiculous, but you have to wear it out.
Yeah,
Like,
that's better for me
all right.
because like everything, I'm a ritual-based person, and if I'm coming in one day wearing like clown makeup and like a rainbow afro,
I want
that's not gonna work.
I want a picture in a restaurant with the ridiculous outfit.
Oh, yeah. You have to eat at a
So
restaurant.
we're doing ridiculous. That's
Yeah, this is all ridiculous.
Well, we were gonna do like we would just pick it out for you, and I would make you look fly as fuck, and you'd be like, okay, I understand. But now it's ridiculous.
okay. All right.
You're just a bucket of F-bombs. I just want to say, you keep forgetting, dude. And I just hope that after the most recent F-bomb, you learn, but I guess I just have to call it out now. All right. You have to wear it to a dinner, and you have to wear it to a bar or beverage establishment.
Karaoke.
Karaoke afterwards.
He's really excited.
You have to do dinner, and you have to do one song at karaoke, and we will record that. And we will share that with you in the world, all in a ridiculous outfit chosen by your opponents.
Yes. And it has to be, in Sweden, we say kläder efter väder, which means clothes after the weather. So I'm not going to go out and freeze and get sick.
Yeah. For
Oh,
sure.
yeah, we're not
So
gonna
you're
do
allowed to
You
wear
can't
your
send me out in a
jackets,
kilt.
but once you're inside the restaurant, you will remove said winter layers and don your clown costume.
Can you imagine a hot dog that comes into your cafe in a coat?
A hot dog comes in?
We said like if you wore a hot dog costume with all your winter jackets on, you took it off and you sat down, and we go to like a nice restaurant, like a 4-star restaurant, you sit down, you're like, yeah, I'll have the tasting menu.
I'd like the steak tartare.
All right, there you have it. That is your bet. That is 4-0 for Vitality. If it happens, Froskurinn and I have to dress up as anything.
Can we date? Can we go on a date?
We can go on a date. I feel like you would want to come too to see this embarrassment, right?
Of course.
Yeah,
Okay.
of course. Yeah, so we're all
It's a
going to go.
3-man date. YamatoCannon.
It's a 3-man date.
Paid
There
by
you go.
Steve. Yes.
Why not?
Why not? We got it. All right, this has been episode 2 of season 2.5 of Euphoria. Thanks so much for watching, discussing roster rooms, everything else. One more episode remains in the season. We'll keep you guys posted as it's coming out in what is, I would say, we have a loose schedule right now for Euphoria. It's off season. That's how it goes. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.